In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of all the worlds. We praise Him, we seek His help, and we seek His forgiveness. There are moments in our lives when the dua has been made, the tears have fallen, the nights have been long, and yet the sky feels silent. No sign, no answer, no immediate relief. And in that silence, Shaitan whispers that we've been forgotten, that Allah has turned away, that our prayers were too small or our sins too great. But what if the silence is not abandonment? What if it is divine attention? What if Allah al-Hakim is not ignoring you but carefully arranging something far greater than what you asked for? The Quran reminds us that Allah does not rush because He sees what we cannot see, and He plans with a wisdom that carries mercy within it. When Allah is silent, it is often the moment when hearts are being reshaped, faith is being purified, and destinies are being rewritten. Today is not about waiting helplessly. It is about understanding the power hidden within that silence and learning how to move through it with certainty, trust, and unshakable iman. Because sometimes the delay is the very proof that something big is being prepared. When the heart is shaken by uncertainty, panic feels natural. The mind races ahead, imagining every possible loss, every door closing, every dream slipping away. Panic tells us we must act immediately, fix everything now, control every outcome, or else we will be destroyed. But tawakkul gently interrupts that noise. Tawakkul is not weakness, and it is not passivity. It is the deep, settled certainty that while you are responsible for effort, Allah is responsible for outcomes. Panic comes from believing the weight of the future rests on your shoulders alone. Tawakkul comes from knowing that the one who created your future is already there, arranging it with precision and mercy. When Allah seems silent, panic screams the loudest. It asks, why hasn't He answered yet? What if this never changes? What if I'm running out of time? But tawakkul reminds the believer that silence is not absence. Allah does not operate on human urgency. He operates on divine wisdom. He sees the consequences before they exist, the lessons before they are learned, and the growth before it appears. Panic demands clarity now. Tawakkul trusts clarity will come at the right time. There is a subtle form of arrogance hidden inside panic. It assumes that if the solution does not arrive quickly, then the situation must be hopeless. Tawakkul humbles the heart. It admits, I do not see the full picture, but Allah does. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that we may dislike something while it is good for us, and love something while it is harmful. Panic clings to what we want. Tawakkul submits to what Allah knows is best, even when it contradicts our desires. True tawakkul begins after effort, not before it. You tie your camel, you make du'ola, you take the steps within your capacity, and then you release the obsession with results. Panic keeps replaying the same fear, hoping control will bring peace. Tawakkul releases control and finds peace in surrender. That release is not laziness, it is emotional discipline. It is choosing faith over fear, trust over turmoil, certainty over chaos. When Allah is silent, He may be teaching you to stop relying on answers and start relying on Him. Many people worship solutions more than they worship Allah. They feel calm only when everything makes sense. But tawakkul matures the believer to remain calm, even when nothing makes sense. It trains the heart to say, even if I do not understand what Allah is doing, I am certain He is doing something good. That certainty transforms anxiety into endurance and despair into resilience. Look at the lives of the prophets. Not one of them was spared delay, hardship, or unanswered questions. Yusuf alayhi salam waited years between the well and the palace. Musa alayhi salam faced fear before victory. Maryam alayhi salam endured isolation before honor. In every story, relief came not when panic peaked, but when trust was complete. Tawakkul did not remove the test, but it carried them through it with dignity and divine support. Panic drains the soul. Tawakkul strengthens it. Panic exhausts you before the trial even ends. Tawakkul preserves your energy for what truly matters. It anchors you in the present moment, reminding you that Allah is managing what you cannot manage. When you choose tawakkul, you are not saying nothing hurts. You are saying this pain does not define the ending. You are not denying fear. You are refusing to let fear lead. When Allah is silent, choosing tawakkul is an act of worship. It is a declaration that Allah is trustworthy even when outcomes are unclear. It is believing that delays are not punishments but preparations. Something within you is being refined. Something ahead of you is being protected. And something greater than what you imagined is quietly taking shape. Panic wants answers. Tawakkul wants Allah. And whoever truly has Allah has already secured everything that matters. Patience is often misunderstood as simply waiting, enduring quietly, or surviving hardship until it passes. But patience in Islam was never meant to be passive. Sabr is not standing still while life happens to you. Sabr is movement with restraint, endurance with intention, and faith with direction. Patience with purpose transforms waiting into worship and pain into progress. When Allah is silent, patience is not about counting days until relief. It is about who you become during the delay. Many people are patient out of exhaustion, not conviction. They wait because they have no other choice, but inside they are angry, bitter, and spiritually drained. Purposeful patience is different. It is patience rooted in meaning. It asks, what is Allah teaching me here, rather than when will this end? It shifts the heart from resistance to reflection. Instead of fighting the delay, why? It learns from it. Instead of resenting the silence, it listens to it. Allah never praises patience without direction. In the Quran, sabr is always tied to something higher: prayer, truth, obedience, trust, and righteousness. This tells us that patience is not empty time. It is time filled with growth, discipline, and preparation. When Allah delays an answer, He is often expanding the heart's capacity to carry what is coming. Some blessings would break us if they arrive too early. Some responsibilities require a level of emotional and spiritual maturity we have not yet reached. Patience with purpose prepares you to receive without being destroyed by what you receive. Purposeful patience also protects the believer from despair. When patience lacks meaning, suffering feels pointless. But when patience is anchored in faith, even pain feels productive. You may not enjoy the hardship, but you trust that it is not wasted. Allah promises that He does not allow the efforts of the patient to be lost. Every tear, every sleepless night, every suppressed complaint is recorded, valued, and rewarded in ways far beyond what we can see. When Allah is silent, impatience tempts us to rush toward shortcuts. It pushes us to compromise values, abandon principles, or accept what is easy instead of what is right. Purposeful patience acts as a shield. It reminds us that what comes through disobedience will never carry peace, and what is meant for you will never require you to displease Allah to obtain it. Waiting the halal way may feel slower, but it is always safer for the heart and cleaner for the soul. Patience with purpose also realigns expectations. Many people assume that relief means the removal of hardship. But sometimes relief comes as strength, clarity, or acceptance before circumstances change. Allah may not immediately change what is around you, but He changes what is within you. And when the heart changes, the burden feels lighter, even if the test remains. This is not weakness, this is divine empowerment. Look at the patience of the prophets. Their patience was never empty waiting. It was filled with du'ala, action, and unwavering obedience. Nuh alayhi salam preached for centuries with no visible success. Yet his patience was purposeful, because it was anchored in fulfilling his duty to Allah, not in immediate results. Ayyub alayhi salam endured immense loss, but his patience never turned into complaint against Allah. His purpose was nearness to Allah, not simply the return of comfort. And when relief came, it came in ways that honored their patience. Purposeful patience changes how you speak to Allah during silence. Instead of repeatedly asking, "Why me?" the heart begins to say, "Strengthen me." Instead of demanding explanations, it seeks alignment. This patience builds intimacy with Allah. It creates a private connection where the servant trusts Allah enough to wait without resentment. That level of trust is rare, and that is why its reward is immense. Where Allah is silent, patient, with purpose is choosing growth over bitterness, depth over desperation, and faith over frustration. It is understanding that waiting is not a pause in your life, but a chapter of your life. A chapter where foundations are laid, intentions are purified, and hearts are strengthened. And when the silence finally breaks, you will realize that patience was not dela, yin your life. It was preparing you for it. There is a mercy of Allah that often goes unnoticed because it is wrapped in delay. We are trained to recognize mercy only when doors open, when prayers are answered quickly, when relief arrives exactly as imagined. But Allah's mercy is not limited to what feels good in the moment. Sometimes mercy looks like postponement, redirection, or even denial. Hidden mercy in delay is one of the greatest tests of faith, because it requires trusting Allah's kindness without immediate evidence. When Allah is silent, the heart often assumes something is wrong, either with the prayer, the believer, or the relationship with Allah. But delay does not mean rejection. It often means protection. Allah may be shielding you from something you are not ready to face, sparing you from harm you cannot yet see, or saving you from a version of your life that would have broken you spiritually. What feels like loss may actually be rescue. What feels like absence may actually be divine intervention. Many people look back on their lives and realize that the prayers they once cried over would have led them away from Allah had they been answered too soon. The relationship that didn't work, the opportunity that slipped away, the door that closed without explanation. These moments often reveal their mercy only with time. Delay allows Allah to reroute us without our resistance. If He showed us everything at once, we would fight His wisdom. So He gives us silence instead, allowing trust to grow where certainty cannot. Hidden mercy in delay also protects the believer from emotional attachment to outcomes rather than to Allah. When everything arrives on demand, the heart can begin to love the gift more than the giver. Delay recalibrates the heart. It reminds us that our dependence is not on timing, people, or circumstances, but on Allah alone. This purification of reliance is a mercy that strengthens Iman at its core. Allah's delay often carries lessons that instant relief would never teach. In waiting, the believer learns humility, resilience, gratitude, and sincerity. Dua becomes deeper, worship becomes more intentional, and self-awareness increases. These inner changes are not side effects of delay, they are the purpose of it. Allah values the heart more than the outcome because a healed heart can carry any outcome with grace. Sometimes Allah delays because what you are asking for is coming in a better form, not different in value but higher in impact. What you desire may be good, but Allah delays to give you what is greater. He replaces what is temporary with what is lasting, what is limited with what is expansive, and what is fragile with what is firm. Delay refines the request until it aligns with divine generosity. Hidden mercy also lies in protection from regret. There are things that once gained too early lead to lifelong wounds. Allah's knowledge includes future pain we cannot imagine. His silence can be the wall between you and suffering you never have to endure. The delay that frustrates you today may be the reason your heart remains intact tomorrow. When Allah is silent, hidden mercy is working quietly beneath the surface. Just because you cannot see it does not mean it is absent. Allah's mercy does not always announce itself. It often whispers through patience, unfolds through time, and reveals itself through hindsight. One day you will look back at this silence and realize it was not emptiness. It was mercy disguised as waiting, love disguised as delay, and care disguised as silence. When Allah is silent, one of the greatest works happening is not around you, but within you. Silence is often the space Allah creates for inner purification. We ask Allah to change our circumstances, but Allah begins by changing our hearts. Because a heart that is not purified cannot carry certain blessings without being harmed by them. Inner purification is not punishment, it is preparation. In times of ease, flaws remain hidden. Success can mask arrogance, comfort can hide ingratitude, and stability can dull spiritual awareness. But silence exposes what noise cannot. It reveals where the heart truly leans, what it depends on, and what it fears losing most. Allah allows the quiet so that the believer can confront what needs healing, softening, and surrender. This is not Allah pulling away. It is Allah drawing you inward. Inner purification often begins with discomfort. Old habits feel heavier, distractions lose their sweetness, and false sources of comfort stop working. This can feel like emptiness, but it is actually detox. Allah is removing attachments that compete with Him in your heart. When something occupies the heart more than Allah, it becomes a source of anxiety and disappointment. Purification restores balance, placing Allah back at the center where peace belongs. Allah's silence also strips the heart of entitlement. Many people unconsciously believe they deserve immediate answers because of their effort, their dua, or their suffering. Silence humbles the soul. It teaches servitude, rather than transaction. We begin to worship Allah not for outcomes, but for who He is. This shift is one of the purest forms of Iman, and it cannot be learned in comfort. Inner purification sharpens sincerity. When no one sees your struggle, when no praise follows your patience, and when no visible reward appears, the heart learns to act purely for Allah. Your dua becomes quieter but deeper. Your worship becomes less about relief and more about closeness. Allah values this sincerity immensely because it reflects true devotion, not conditional faith. Allah also uses silence to heal internal wounds we have ignored. Pain buried under busyness finally rises to the surface. Unforgiveness, unresolved grief, and spiritual fatigue demand attention. This process is uncomfortable but necessary. A heart that has not healed cannot fully trust. Allah's silence gives permission to slow down, to feel, and to heal under His care, rather than escaping through distraction. Purification is also about emptying before filling. Just as a vessel must be clean before it holds something precious, the heart must be purified before receiving certain blessings. Allah may be preparing you for influence, responsibility, love, or leadership. Without purification, these gifts could corrupt rather than elevate you. Silence cleans the vessel so that what comes next can remain. When Allah is silent, inner purification is unfolding quietly, deeply, and intentionally. You may feel unseen, but you are being shaped. You may feel delayed, but you are being refined. Allah is not ignoring your prayers. He is answering them in the language of transformation. And when the silence lifts, you will notice that even if your circumstances are still changing, you are no longer the same person who once begged for answers. You are stronger, softer, and closer to Allah than before. Faith is not strengthened when everything goes according to plan. Faith deepens when certainty is demanded in the absence of reassurance. When Allah is silent, Iman is no longer supported by signs, results, or visible progress. It stands alone. And it is in that loneliness that faith either weakens or becomes unshakable. Strengthened faith is not built in moments of clarity, but in moments where trust is chosen without proof. In times of ease, faith is often inherited from environment and routine. Prayer flows easily, dua feels light, and reliance on Allah feels natural because life is manageable. But silence disrupts that comfort. It asks the believer a hard question: do you still trust Allah when you do not feel Him responding the way you expected? Answering yes to that question is an act of spiritual courage. When Allah delays, faith is forced to mature. It moves from emotional dependence to intellectual and spiritual conviction. The believer stops relying on feelings alone and begins to rely on knowledge of Allah's names and attributes. Al-Hakim, Al-Adl, Al-Latif, Ar-Rahman. These names stop being concepts and become anchors. Faith strengthens when the heart learns to trust Allah's character rather than immediate outcomes. Silence also separates sincere faith from conditional faith. Conditional faith believes in Allah as long as things improve. Sincere faith believes in Allah even when improvement is not visible. This separation is painful, but it is purifying. Allah values faith that remains steady under pressure because it reflects truth, not convenience. This is the kind of faith that Allah loves and supports in unseen ways. Strengthened faith brings inner stability. When external circumstances remain uncertain, the heart no longer collapses with every change. There is a quiet resilience that develops, a sense that even if things do not unfold as hoped, Allah remains enough. This does not mean the believer stops caring or desiring relief. It means their faith is no longer fragile. It can bend without breaking. Allah's silence also teaches the believer to recognize His presence beyond answers. You begin to notice Allah in protection rather than provision, in restraint rather than reward, in lessons rather than solutions. Faith expands to see Allah working in subtle ways, in doors that remain closed, in temptations avoided, in strength you did not know you had. These are signs too, but they require mature faith to recognize. Strengthened faith changes the language of the heart. Dua becomes less about urgency and more about alignment. Worship becomes less transactional and more relational. The believer no longer asks, "Did Allah answer me?" but instead asks, "Did Allah draw me closer?" That shift marks a higher level of iman, one that values nearness over outcomes. When Allah is silent, faith is being tested, but it is also being fortified. Like muscle strengthened through resistance, iman grows through pressure. One day, when the silence breaks, you will realize that the greatest gift was not the answer you were waiting for, but the faith that carried you through the waiting. That faith will remain long after circumstances change, steady, rooted, and unshaken, because it was built in the quiet under Allah's watchful care. Human urgency is loud. It demands speed, clarity, and control. It tells us that if something does not happen quickly, it will never happen at all. It convinces the heart that delay equals denial, and that waiting is a sign of failure. But divine timing speaks a very different language. It is quiet, precise, and intentional. When Allah is silent, He's inviting the believer to release human urgency and submit to divine timing, a timing that is never late, never random, and never cruel. We live in a world that worships immediacy. Fast answers, fast success, fast healing, fast results. This culture conditions the heart to feel anxious when things move slowly. So when Allah delays, the delay feels unbearable. The heart begins to question itself, its worth, and even its relationship with Allah. But divine timing is not measured by clocks or calendars. It is measured by wisdom. Allah does not work according to our impatience. He works according to what will lead us safely to our ultimate good. Human urgency is rooted in limited vision. We see only the present moment and judge everything based on how it feels right now. Allah sees the entire story, from beginning to end. He sees how one event will affect another, how one choice will shape a lifetime, and how one blessing received too early could become a test instead of a gift. When Allah delays, it is because He sees something we do not. And trusting divine timing is an act of humility, an admission that our understanding is incomplete while Allah's knowledge is perfect. When Allah is silent, urgency tempts us to rush decisions. We feel pressured to force outcomes, chase answers, and grab whatever relief appears first. This is often when people compromise values, settle for less than what they deserve, or step into situations that bring short-term comfort but long-term regret. Divine timing protects the believer from these rushed choices. It slows us down not to frustrate us, but to save us from ourselves. Divine timing also teaches the heart patience without paralysis. Trusting Allah's timing does not mean doing nothing. It means doing what is required of you today without obsessing over tomorrow. You act responsibly, pray sincerely, and live righteously, while accepting that the results belong to Allah. This balance frees the heart from exhaustion. Urgency drains energy because it demands control over what cannot be controlled. Trust in divine timing restores peace because it returns control to the one who deserves it. One of the hardest aspects of divine timing is that it often contradicts our plans. We imagine a specific path, a certain age, a particular outcome. When Allah chooses differently, disappointment follows. But disappointment does not mean Allah chose wrongly. It means our expectations were too narrow. Allah's plans are not designed to fulfill our timelines. They are designed to protect our faith, elevate our character, and secure our akhirah. Look at how often Allah's timing in the Quran defies human urgency. Victory did not come immediately to the believers. Relief did not arrive at the first sign of suffering. Even revelation came gradually. This teaches us that transformation takes time. Allah allows processes to unfold because growth that is rushed is fragile. Growth that is gradual is resilient. Divine timing also builds emotional maturity. When answers do not come quickly, the believer learns how to sit with uncertainty without collapsing. They learn to regulate emotions, to remain steady in worship, and to trust Allah even when the heart feels heavy. This maturity is essential because some blessings require emotional strength to sustain them. Allah does not just give, He prepares. Human urgency often focuses on outcomes, but divine timing focuses on readiness. You may be asking for something good, marriage, success, healing, clarity, but Allah may be waiting for the right version of you to receive it. The delay is not about the blessing, it is about the bearer of the blessing. Allah is shaping your patience, wisdom, gratitude, and humility so that when the gift arrives, it does not become a source of arrogance, anxiety, or distraction from Him. There is also mercy in Allah's timing because it protects you from future grief. Some paths look appealing now but would lead to pain later. Allah closes doors quietly before you walk through them loudly. At the time, it feels like loss. Later, it reveals itself as protection. Divine timing spares you from outcomes that would have cost you your peace, your faith, or your identity. When Allah is silent, trusting divine timing requires resisting comparison. Watching others receive what you are waiting for intensifies urgency. It creates the illusion that Allah is favoring others over you. Allah does not repeat timelines because He does not repeat destinies. What is right for someone else may not be right for you, and what arrives easily for another may destroy you if given prematurely. Divine timing is personal, tailored, and precise. Trusting divine timing also deepens the relationship between the servant and Allah. When immediate answers are removed, dependence increases. Dua becomes more sincere, worship becomes more intimate, and reliance becomes more real. The believer learns to turn to Allah not only for solutions, but for strength, comfort, and guidance. This closeness is one of the greatest gifts of delay. There is a quiet confidence that comes with surrendering urgency. The heart stops racing ahead and learns to live fully in the present. Instead of constantly asking, when will this change? The believer asks, how can I please Allah today? This shift brings peace even before circumstances improve. It is not indifference, it is trust. Divine timing also redefines success. Success is no longer measured by speed or visibility, but by alignment with Allah's will. Something arriving late but clean is better than something arriving early but damaging. Something delayed but blessed is better than something rushed but hollow. Allah values barakah over speed, and the believer who understands this no longer envies fast outcomes. When the time finally comes for Allah's decree to unfold, it happens effortlessly. Doors open without force. Clarity replaces confusion. What once felt impossible suddenly feels natural. This is how divine timing reveals itself, not with struggle, but with ease. And in that moment, the believer realizes that the waiting was not wasted. It was necessary. Looking back, many people say the same thing. I am grateful Allah did not give me what I wanted when I wanted it. At the time, the delay felt painful. In hindsight, it feels merciful. This is the pattern of divine timing. It rarely makes sense going forward, but it always makes sense looking back. When Allah is silent, choosing divine timing over human urgency is an act of worship. It is saying, I trust you more than I trust my fears. It is believing that Allah's plan for you is not only better, but kinder than anything you could design for yourself. It is releasing the pressure to have everything figured out and allowing Allah to unfold your story at the perfect pace. Allah is never late. He is never early. He is always on time. And when the silence breaks, you will realize that what arrived did not just come at the right moment. It came me to the right version of you.